Hello and welcome to the Unsigned Managers podcast, a show where I, Siji Kolawole, share my thoughts, views and ideas about football's key topics every week. These episodes will be available on all platforms, so please share and support the pod. This week's episode is about England's Euro 2021 squad, so let's get into that. So with the Premier League season pretty much wrapped up, Champions League final coming soon, the next big question after that is Southgate's Euro squad. So not long till the tournament starts and he hasn't publicly announced the squad yet. Throughout the qualifiers he's been mix and matching with the players he's selecting, going for some off-brand players, some well-known, leaving out key well-known players. And now the big question for all fans, pundits, everyone involved in the game is who will he pick? Southgate's got the luxury of having a set of England players to pick who are highly talented, young, athletic, but key issues for him is that a lot of those players play in similar positions or similar styles or want the ball in the same area. So it's tough for him to decide on who he's going to select. So I've decided that I'm going to pick my team, explain why I've picked those players, the systems I think they could be used in, the benefits of them, why I picked them against others in their position. So international football to me is harder to plan for than league football. Managers don't get the luxury of 2 to 3 weeks to build for a certain team or work out how to stop that key player. Games come thick and fast, 2 or 3 days in between with recovery days. Players might not get that many training sessions to work out what they're going to do to stop that key man. So what you want is players who are already able to play multiple systems. That way they don't have to learn an entire new methodology over a couple of days. They can slot back into something that they're used to doing rather than needing to be taught a complete new idea between recovery days and things like that. So I've decided I'm going to go through my 26. 26-man squads announced a couple of weeks ago, which is good, I think, for players, much less likely to get injured. And I think what you want to see is a lot of players make their debut or be able to make an impact. Tournament football gets kind of stagnant sometimes because you're seeing the same squad do the same thing over a couple of weeks. Bigger the squad, more likely you are to get differences. You get the balance of league football where people can try different things with the fast pace of a tournament and key matches happening all the time. So with this, I'm going to do my 23 first, the original 23, and then I'll add in the 3 extras, which I think Southgate should take to add up to his final 26. So goalkeepers, not too difficult selection. There's a lack of top English keepers right now, I think. Not many challenging the main 3 really. My number 1 obviously would be, I think, Jordan Pickford. Good goalkeeper, very good distributor. Key reason he's starting for me is kicking and distro. 2-footed, comfortable either way, very athletic, which is important because he's not that tall. In my mind, Pickford is 6 foot, maybe 6'1" max, but uses that athleticism to balance out any issues he has with a lack of height. He's a bit mental and can be a bit erratic at times. We've seen that. Key examples would have been Van Dijk, or actually against Liverpool year before with the weird save at the end that allowed Origi to score. But Ancelotti looks like a calming influence. Not too many big issues this season after the Van Dijk issue. Was injured for a while, but back now, looks comfortable. Pickford's biggest benefit over the other 2 goalkeepers selected, Henderson and Pope, is his distribution from deep. We've all seen over the last few seasons the big change in managers deciding to go from playing long out from goal kicks, long out from long free kicks, into passing, moving the ball, building from the back. Now defenders are allowed in the box, defensive midfielders dropping in deeper, wingers going out wider, target mans are more needed. You need a goalkeeper who can distribute from deep. If not, you're just giving the ball away. Nick Pope, other selection, Burnley's keeper. Very tall, long, good frame, good shot stopping ability. Seeing that he is the keeper with the joint 5th highest clean sheets this season, playing for a Burnley side, which is not too defensively sound, if we're being honest. Dyche is doing a miracle job keeping them up every season. He's also made the 5th most amount of saves this season. Him and Emi Martinez have probably been the 2 standout goalkeepers this year, so I don't think that there's any hassle taking Pope. Dean Henderson for Man United is a keeper. I don't personally love him, but he's the other obvious choice. Taking the number 1 at United this season after a strong season on loan at Sheffield United. United fans campaigning for him to get the shirt over De Gea. Me personally, David De Gea is clear. I don't really see why Henderson over De Gea, but his benefits are vocal, good shot stopper and distributor. Not as strong as the other 2 in either of those, but more than comfortable. My issue with him, I think, is more, is he going to be scared by big games? There was times for Sheffield United last season when I'm watching them and something goes wrong for Henderson in a game and it got to him, which is logical and fair. Of course, it's going to stress players out, but he can't do that on a big stage. No disrespect to them, but you can do that for Sheffield United because you're not a big team, you're not well publicised. They were doing well last year, making noise, but it's not life or death for them. But in a big tournament like that for England, it's going to be like that. And United have been good this year in parts. Depends on what minute or what half you catch them. But if we're being honest, how many big, important games have they played? And it's to their benefit that they haven't had to do that. They've ran over Roma in the first leg, so it made the second leg much easier. Things like that. They weren't ever really contending for the title. He wasn't in goal in the Tottenham game, but I'm not sure how many big pressure moments Dean Henderson's been in. But again, like I said earlier, obvious choice. Even though there may be a lack of good enough English goalkeepers to make those 3 have to compete, between the 3 of them, they're more than fine to compete for a start. So defenders is next. Important one, to be honest. I think that this is probably the position that will win us the tournament. I think your defenders need to be able to adapt to multiple different systems, play against many different attacking lineups, and be comfortable progressing the ball forward. Most teams don't win tournaments based on how good their attack is. It's rare. What you need is a system of recovering the ball back and shifting it forward. Those are the 2 key reasons. Portugal won the last Euros as a team that barely scored goals, but it didn't matter because it didn't concede them. You had to put so much work into breaking them down, tiring out opposition, stifling them, leaving holes while people are committing to break Portugal down, to move the ball forward, get the ball into areas when they need to. When you've got a striker like Ronaldo, who can put anything away really, managed to get them to the final, and then Eder in the last minute bangs one in. If England are able to keep the centre-back position tight, move the ball forward with their full-backs, progress it, stop the attack of wide players, it should be more than fine. So, for the defenders, centre-back starting, Harry Maguire has to be the nailed-on starter. Strong in the air, everyone knows. Very physical, tall, can play out from the back. Not amazingly, he's not at top Virgil van Dijk or Sergio Ramos level, but Maguire can move the ball, comfortable with it, has to be nailed on. Next to him is probably John Stones. Don't know where he's come out of this season. Went from riding Man City's bench and possibly being moved on to now easily being nailed on. Very physical, can play out comfortably. Next to Diaz, the 2 of them have looked like a wall, and you wouldn't bet against him and Maguire being able to replicate that. We've seen the 2 of them together before. It's not amazing. If they go in with a mentality of the first thing we need to do is defend, move the ball out forward towards our more attacking players and let them create, rather than taking extra chances or doing a little bit too much, I think they'll be more than fine. England have got so much attacking prowess, so many players comfortable in tight areas, they can just shift it forward. Beauty of Stones and Diaz for City is their job is to get the ball into the number 8s or into an attacking midfield player. That's it. Shift it wide into the fullbacks, shift it into an 8, job done. They don't overdo it. At times before where we see John Stones at his weakness is when he wants to take too many touches or play that crazy Hollywood pass or bring it down nicely or do this or do that. Then he gets caught, gets twisted around, doesn't know what he's doing, and he's done. With Maguire, everyone knows you need to stick pace around him. Stones is fast enough, not at Joe Gomez or Kyle Walker level, but good enough. Both of them tall, good in the air, effective. I think they'll be fine. Other centre-back I would have is Tyrone Mings. Now, he's benefited from the fact that Joe Gomez has been out all year. I didn't think Mings would make this squad. But for me, I think he has something that other two don't have, which is A, he's left-footed. B, he's very tall. I think Tyrone Mings is 6'5", 6'6", but still keeping good athleticism. The reason that's key for me is what you want is flexibility in the team that you select. I think if England were to go into a back three, I would have Mings play on the left-hand side. I wouldn't mind going with a back three of Mings, Maguire and Walker, or even Mings, Maguire and Stones and play all three of them. I don't mind that. Mings isn't terrible on the ball. Having a left foot means that he opens up the other side of the pitch. Everyone's looking around like crazy for left-footed centre-backs. Laporte's values in the sky, because you want someone that can step out open and unlock the other half of that pitch. I think that having Mings there as another option will open the pitch out for England and let them spread the ball out into that left-hand side, into that channel. My hybrid defender is Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker for me is in that James Milner position, the utility man position where I'd either use him at right back or centre back. Comfortable with either. He's England's most complete fullback, I think. He has what all of the rest of them have. Maybe not to such a high level, but he's the most complete. But has tournament experience playing as centre back. Did it in the World Cup. Defensively strong, incredibly athletic. We've just seen him against Mbappe and Neymar. Only a couple times did they ever get in a straight race, but Walker was comfortable every time. I think playing under Peppers really helped him from his Tottenham days where he was a lockdown fullback. So now Walker can create from deep, comfortable on the ball, can drive up through the middle of the pitch. We've seen that. I think I'd have him in there as the person I would pick in case we're playing against someone difficult. England pull Belgium or France or Germany or whatever, Kyle Walker would play. I think if Southgate goes into a back three, I would have him play, dependent on size of the striker. If you want to play in a back four and you're worried about the pace of the other side, I'd have Walker play at right back comfortably. He's fine at either. So, other fullbacks. For me, Trent has to go. I don't get the argument and the narrative around not selecting him because people think he hasn't had a good season. I think it's tough when you're a defender in a system that is based around solidity from one key man like Van Dijk, who allows Robertson and Trent to get forward for Liverpool. When that man goes and your team cannot stably find a centre-back pairing, I'm not sure how much more he could have done. I think he's not fair that he is labelled as being overly reliant on Van Dijk. But I think in the same way that Liverpool's wide men can afford to cheat and don't have to defend so much because of the midfield, because of the workman-like midfield, I think of course it makes more sense that Trent can get more forward and be more effective when Van Dijk is behind him. Because between Van Dijk and Gomez, they have so much pace, covering, ball playing, that they can get forward and receive the ball in higher areas. They don't need to constantly stay back. But this season, because he hasn't been great defensively, which is fair, the knock on him is that he's not a good defender. We've seen Vinicius Jr. in the Champions League final, first leg, tore Trent and Nat Phillips, tore them up to bits. People acting like that outweighs everything he contributes in attack. This guy's a top playmaker in the Premier League at fullback. Top 5 in key passes this year, top 3 in chance creation, double figures assists for the last 2 seasons, and he's under 23, maybe 24? I don't see why the narrative would be, I wouldn't take him, he hasn't done great for Liverpool, look what happens when Van Dijk's not there. Of course, when the best player in his position by far in the world is not there, of course that affects people that play in the same area as he does. At the Euros, playing against a team that might struggle to bring the ball forward or don't have dynamic wingers, and Trent can really get forward and overlap past the wide man and deliver into the area. We've got a target man up front. He's the number one choice. That guy is a threat on the pitch from anywhere inside 40 yards because he can put a ball right into the area of a striker who just has to finish. Killer from dead balls, killer from corners. Don't see why he wouldn't take Trent. Reece James, he'd be my other right back. Strong middleman between Trent, Luke Shaw, Kyle Walker, where he combines all of those things. He's got the attacking prowess of Trent. He can deliver a ball as well. England got quality delivery from fullback. He's as good as Shaw defensively. He's very complete. He can play in multiple positions. Very athletic, strong, ball playing, comfortable on either foot. He's probably the best option if England shift into a 5-back to play at wing-back. He's got more than enough energy to get up and down. He's comfortable receiving the ball in central and wide areas. Killer delivery. Good enough to get on the overlap for 90 minutes. I don't see the harm in trying that out. England have got enough attacking players that playing at a 5-back wouldn't stifle the attack so badly. He's strong, he's physical. Reece James is a good option. The argument against him and Walker is, are they too similar? Because James can also and has played as a centre-back, plays in a very similar style to Walker. So the issue is, are you redundantly taking two of the same player? But the only other option at right back to take would have been Wan-Bissaka, who I would rather have a player who I feel like I can contribute in both areas of the pitch effectively. Wan-Bissaka is a top level 1v1 defender. Seen this year a few times that he's not always a great team defender. Positioning is not always amazing for him. It's well documented his lack of effectiveness going forward, which has improved over the season, but still is not at international level. So I think the three right backs I'd take would be James, Trent and Walker. I think between that, you've got enough system adaptation, flexibility, delivery, attacking threat, defensive solidity, more than fine. Two left backs would be Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell. I think they're the two obvious options. Luke Shaw, what a season for him. Started out with the issues under Mourinho a couple seasons ago, questions over his physical health, whether he was in shape or not. Ollie this season has made him a key player for United. Really got back to seeing what Shaw did when he was at Southampton, both defensively and in attack. Top 10 in assists from outside the box, passes into the box, expected assist, pass progression. Between him, Trent and James, England's strikers should be loving their life because all they're going to get is top quality deliveries right into the box. Big target man in there, finisher like Harry Kane. I don't think it's a spoiler alert to say Kane's going. We should get bags of goals from wide areas. Delivery is so quality. Chilwell's the other obvious option. I probably would have had him before the season. I would have guessed he would have been the starter at left back. I think Shaw has been so good this year that it's unfair to not let him start. But Chilwell, just as solid, adapted under Tuchel, good in attacking areas and not a liability defensively. Can deliver a dead ball pretty well. Comfortable, probably would still go with Shaw if I was playing in either system. But Chilwell as a backup isn't a bad option at all. Okay, so with goalkeepers and defenders done, let's go to the more fun areas of the pitch. Let's move into the midfield. So I think England got kind of a big problem in the midfield area. There isn't enough top quality defensive midfield players, and I think there's too many attacking midfield players. I think there's too many players who do their best work just outside the opposition's box and not their best work just outside England's box. So Declan Rice, who is my starting defensive midfield player, I think is going to have to put in a shift. He's not the best passer, but can move the ball forward. Declan Rice I respect because he knows what he can and cannot do and doesn't do too much. With West Ham, he knows that Lingard, Benrahma, Bowen, Antonio, Fornals deal with the ball better than he does. So his job is break up play, clean up in front of Dawson and Ogbonna and Diop, shift the ball forward. That's it. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy, but gets the job done, is effective there. Players like Fabinho have made a career out of that, cleaning up in front of their back four, moving the ball into more effective areas. I think another defensive midfield player that's got to be selected is Calvin Phillips. Bit different to Rice is where Phillips' best attribute is his passing. I'm not in love with Phillips there, but I think that in a game where possession might be key, Phillips has to play next to Rice. I would normally start in a 4-3-3 and let Rice play by himself. But I think if possession is important and we need to be able to move the ball forward, Phillips will be better to play because he can play in pockets and play short, play long, spin into gaps, find areas. I think that's the way it's got to go. With the attacking midfielders, this must be Southgate's dream, really. I can't imagine having so many young players, creative, athletic, technical, good at dribbling, good at passing, make good decisions, all playing in the same area at the same time and all being young. Phil Foden, obviously, easy choice. Guy's probably got as much talent as Mbappe and Haaland and other players people are willing to splash hundreds of millions on. He's so gifted, he's so good at dribbling, he's so relaxed when making decisions in the final third that I wouldn't be surprised if he's the key reason for success at this tournament. He can move in well between the lines, he can play wide, he can play inside, he can come short, he can be the wide man and stretch the pitch out, good delivery across the box, can finish, can play in the final pass, slipping in a player like Kane. I think Phil Foden, obviously standout. Mason Mount, player that's really coming to his own this season, was good under Frank at the beginning of this season for Chelsea, but has become much better under Tuchel. His pressing is so key in a tournament like this where defensive solidity is important, because when you're around Mason Mount, you cannot waste time on the ball. I think he hurries players, I think he stresses players with how constant and suffocating his press is. If Southgate wants to play a system where he plays a 4-3-3 with 2 8s and they press high and suffocate the other team, Mason Mount's perfect. If he's playing against a team where their back line is comfortable having the ball and he feels like they can win the ball in high areas, play him out wide, good with that, flexible. He is a player that might not be as talented as Foden, but can be just as effective depending on the situation he's in. One that definitely surprised me, and I did not think that I'd be saying this at the beginning of the season, Jesse Lingard. Lingard's been reborn at West Ham. Now is being recognised for how good his off-the-ball runs are. There was a goal, I cannot remember who West Ham were playing against. It might have been against Arsenal in the game that they drew 3-3, where Lingard's off-the-ball run, it doesn't touch the ball. Doesn't touch it. It's a counter-attack. Doesn't touch it for about 8 seconds. But his off-the-ball movement creates the entire goal. He drags 2 defenders away from Antonio completely by himself, just by his movement off the ball. He's such a threat. He makes such intelligent runs that England must be thinking, if you've got a player like Kane or other attacking players they have, you're begging for a Jesse Lingard because he's going to buy you an extra half a second. And at this level, with the attacking players England have, an extra half a second is deadly. He's, again, an excellent presser, not a bad passer in short, compact areas. Breaks down lines, moves in between lines. Jesse Lingard, another nailed on one for me. The last midfield player is James Ward-Prowse. I'm not excited about this pick at all. I think if Jordan Henderson was fit, it would be Henderson. I'm not sure whether Henderson comes back fully fit, and I don't really like the idea of taking half-fit players to tournaments. With the amount of games you're playing that quickly, and especially at this Euros with the travel, I want all my players fit at all times. And if Henderson's not going to be fully fit before, I don't think he should make the cut. Ward-Prowse, very similar to Calvin Phillips, good long-range passer. Everyone knows about his dead ball ability. Free kick taker, corners. Good, hard-working defensive midfield player. Not bad in the tackle. Not ineffective going forward. Just not really an inspired pick. But it won't be. You won't ever see James Ward-Prowse lose a game for you. He's maybe not good enough to win a game for England. Good enough for Southampton. No disrespect to them. But James Ward-Prowse won't lose you a game. He'll put in a shift. which I'm not too mad at, depending on the other players around him. If he was the star man in the midfield, I'd be worried, but if he's going to be a fringe midfield player, it's fine by me. So now let's get into the fun area. The area everyone's excited about is the forwards. I think England have a real chance to be effective at this tournament because of how versatile the front line is. Like we said at the beginning, with systems, adaptability, flexibility, winning a tournament, England's front line can play in so many different ways, which I think is key. Kane, Calvert-Lewin, between the two of them, you have pure finishing, playmaking, target man, running in behind, linking up with others, physical threat. They can both play in a multitude of systems by themselves. Adding that with the players around them and behind them, people like Foden, Mount, Lingard, I can really see England scoring a lot of goals at this tournament. Kane, this season, Tottenham have had a torrid year after the whole Jose debacle, but Harry Kane is probably the best, if not second best striker in the world. It's him or Robert Lewandowski just looking at each other thinking, I don't know who's better than who. But Kane can finish, left foot, right foot, head, can pass into the final third, can link up with our attacking players. Look at how much work Son has done this year based off Kane's creativity. He presses high. He's physical. He's a bully to play against. Kane bullies other centre-backs. I don't think anyone is playing against him thinking, oh, it's going to be an easy day. We can just stick it on him physically and he'll whimper at the game. Not at all. He's fantastic in the air. Guy is an all-round forward. And I think people say that really easily because if a player can do a couple things, then yeah, he's all round. But Harry Kane is a real all round forward. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, after the season he's had, you can't see a reason why he wouldn't go. Firstly, physical threat, so good in the air, strong, tall and fast, which is rare that players normally have all three. Normally it's two of the three and one of them you can get marked out with. But just like Kane, no one looks at Calvert-Lewin and thinks it's going to be an easy day today. Not at all. Guy is so strong, good in the air, can finish. They just played West Ham this weekend and the finish, the touch, the extra dribble and the finish, you can see that being Sergio Aguero in his prime. I think Calvert-Lewin is less clinical than Kane, but if you go back again to the fullbacks that I listed, Shaw, James, Trent, even Chilwell, Ward-Prowse if he plays on dead balls, Dominic Calvert-Lewin could easily rack 4 or 5 goals in this tournament just off headers alone. The wide men, I would have firstly Raheem Sterling. Hasn't had an amazing season. I think in a year that Man City have been more adaptable and flexible and Pep has gone without a striker, I think the next assumption would have been, oh, if they don't play a striker, then Raheem Sterling would be banging all their goals. I think rather than having them come from one main source and created from one main guy, Kevin De Bruyne, it's been more shared out. So the impact Sterling's could have had has been less, but still a fantastic player. Question marks over his finishing, which is funny for a player that gets 20 a season, but I don't think there's many people that if Raheem Sterling went through one-on-one, many would be confident he would score. But incisive passer, good dribbler, very fast, is good 1v1, which is nice in key areas because it means that oppositions might want to send 2 people at him, or the extra defender might take more notice of Sterling because they know he can take a fullback on 1v1, which unlocks space for fullbacks and wide midfielders to get into areas to deliver on the ball. Good connection with Phil Foden, Raheem Sterling, easy option to take. Marcus Rashford, outstanding season from him, I think. I think in a year that Man United have been up and down depending on the minute they're playing, Marcus Rashford has been top quality. I like the fact that he's direct, which you don't get from a lot of the players in this team. Although very pretty technical players, not all of them are direct. Even though I've just said Sterling is a good 1v1, he doesn't always go for that. Rashford will take a fullback on 10 to 15 times a game, every game. And he's so much faster than you, so much stronger than you, so much more skillful than you. Marcus Rashford can rip a fullback 10 to 15 times a game. Again, opening up the pitch for other people. As soon as you can beat your man, the opposition's now in an issue because they don't know whether to leave you or send another man. They send another man, that's an easy square pass, goal. I don't know if I start him because I think he could be a serious threat against tight defences. He's faster than Sterling. He's faster than my other wide option, which is Sancho. And I think he's probably more direct than both. I like the idea of him coming off the bench. The best example I can think of is West Ham in the second half against Man United, where West Ham in the first half absolutely battered United. I cannot believe they didn't go into half-time 2 or 3-0 up. Solskjaer brought Bruno and Rashford on in the second half, and Rashford tore West Ham apart. I think he scored 2 that day, and Pogba scored a long ranger. But he went 1v1 all the time. West Ham couldn't live with it, and I can't imagine any international defence can deal with a rested Marcus Rashford 1v1, especially if he comes on late and Southgate gives him the keys and says just feed him. Jadon Sancho, the other obvious option. I think he has a blessing and a curse playing in Germany. I think last season it was a blessing because every week it felt like you get more news on what Sancho had done. And because not many people watch the Bundesliga every week, not many people in England, I assume, watch the Bundesliga every week. It felt like every time you saw Sancho's name because you got another goal or another assist. He's doing something all the time, but we never saw the bad games. I think the issue this season is that he didn't get the move. So the hype has slightly died down. Yeah, because his season wasn't as good and he had a little bit of issues with Dortmund at the beginning of the year. But I think the hype has died down, but the quality of the player hasn't. Sancho is still phenomenally talented. And like Foden, makes amazing decisions in the final third. I think if I'm Harry Kane and the people around me supplying passes are Sancho, Foden, Mount and Sterling, no reason why he can't score 5 or 6 in this tournament and then there's Golden Boot winner. Because he's going to have so many opportunities from these players. And vice versa, Harry Kane's creativity, you can imagine him dropping deep, picking up the ball, spinning, playing Sancho in to 1v1, squares it to Sterling. Or Kane pulling out wider, or the rotation between any of those 4, I'm including Foden in that, I think can be phenomenal. Then you've got a player like Mason Mount who cleans up scraps, Declan Rice winning the ball back, moving it again. I think that starting 11 of Pickford, Walker, Stones, Maguire, Shaw, Rice, Foden, Mount, both of them as 8s. Sterling wide, Sancho wide, Kane up front. I can see that being a real problem for any team because the rotation in that, the delivery from fullbacks, the defensive solidity, and Rice knowing his job can make it a proper problem for anyone else to play against. So now the final attacking player I think will be Jack Grealish. Reason I haven't started Grealish in my team is Foden does his best work outside the box, just on the edge of it. Mount does his best work on the edge of the box. Sancho's a passer into the box, can beat people, but normally squares. Sterling, normally back post finisher, can create, can drive inside. I don't want everyone on my team doing all their same work on the edge of the box, which is why I've taken Foden and Mount and started them because I think they've got better work rate as 8s than Grealish does. And I think I like the threat, the back post threat of Sterling and Sancho more than I like Grealish. I think Grealish might be my, along with Lingard, backup creative player. I think if England playing against a lockdown fullback similar to like an Aaron Wan-Bissaka, then I'd play Grealish on that side. Because I think he's going to come inside and create more. He's going to negate the defensive solidity of that fullback. We've all seen Sterling's issues playing against Wan-Bissaka when City and United go up against each other. I think in a game like that, I'd play someone who's going to come inside and not even really going to be bothered by that because they're not going to go against each other. But I don't want to play Mount and Foden and Grealish and everyone's waiting on the edge of the box for the ball, doing their best work in the same area, crowding each other out. And Harry Kane's like, great, is someone going to do something incisive to make space for me? But Grealish, more than happy to take him. Fantastic player, just wouldn't start in my lineup. So that's my 23-man squad. I think in that team I have enough flexibility, system adaptability, attacking strength, creativity, incisiveness, pace, power. Defensively, I've got solidity, 2 tall centre backs good in the air, Kyle Walker, defensively sound, Trent, amazing attacking friend, Shaw can do both sides of the pitch, James does both sides. I think I have enough. I think the only area I'd be nervous about is defensive midfield. I personally trust Declan Rice, but I think it's again blessing and a curse with the attacking midfield players. I want to play Foden and Mount and play 2-8s because I think both their work rate is fine enough to cover Rice. But in my mind, Rice then has to be able to marshal the midfield by himself. Really, he has to do a Fernandinho or a Fabinho job and sit there and break up play and shift the ball forward. He has Souček next to him at West Ham who's comfortable doing that. But I think Rice should be fine at the base of midfield. I'd want Jordan Henderson there. If Henderson was fully fit, I would probably drop Sterling, play Foden wide and play Mount, Henderson and Rice. But if he's not going to be fully fit, I wouldn't want to take him. I don't want to carry passengers. So for the extra 3 men that the Euros have said, 26-man squad is allowed. I've gone for 3 young players. First one would be Mason Greenwood. Everyone knows what this guy's about. Modern day Robin van Persie. His finishing for his age is terrifying. He is also a defensive nightmare when 1v1 in a goal scoring position with the defender because they can't decide which way to shift their weight to, because he can make a decision at the last second and go the other one, hit comfortably well with either foot. This season, you can see with Cavani, he's becoming a little bit better at playmaking. Not too much, but a bit better. Can shift the ball better in the final third. Is more comfortable making a delivery. But I think he'd more likely in this tournament be a backup 9. I don't think Southgate would use him wide. She's probably 3rd place after Kane and Calvert-Lewin. But exposure for young players is probably the most important at a tournament like this. He's not going to be the star man now, but the aim is, like with Theo Walcott in 2006, the aim is to give them enough exposure that the next tournament they're more seasoned. Greenwood, Saka and Bellingham would be the 3 that I'd pick. Bukayo Saka has been Arsenal's best player this season by far, not even close. Aubameyang's had a weak year. Lacazette's been good in fits and spurts, but not consistently. Saka consistently is our best player. Good movement in the final third. Not an amazing dribbler, but good enough to beat a man. Incisive passer, creates well. And you can now see in the Arsenal team that when something's bad, like in the Villarreal game in the first leg, or against Fulham, the ball goes to Bukayo Saka. He's the man that the team looks to. Last one would be Jude Bellingham. Of course, young player, dominating Champions League games against Manchester City. Shown it for England already in his starts. So talented. Cannot believe he plays like he's much older than he is. He's a good presser, good on the ball, competent on it, but comfortable on it as well. Positionally versatile, can be a 6, can be an 8. I think in a game of less importance, probably, if you were going to shift into a midfield 3 and give one the other ones a rest, slotting Bellingham in as an 8 is more than fine. I don't see any issue with that. I'd rather take younger players than take older guys who don't need the tournament experience, or not they won't mean as much to them, but it won't be as effective in improving their career because their career is pretty much told. I'd rather have a Saka and a Greenwood and a Bellingham learn from Kane, Maguire, Stones, Walker. Those who are there know what to do, and that way for the next tournament they'll be the number 1 guys. So that's the 26-man squad that I would take to the Euros. I think with that team, Southgate has enough in every area of the pitch to dominate games. I think that team should play in a 4-3-3 or maybe a 2-3-1 and play one of Mount or Foden in the 10. but I think in a 4-3-3 that team could be possessionally dominant, play high up the pitch, and be more than capable of winning a tournament. Okay, so that wraps up the first episode of the Unsigned Manager podcast. Really thankful to all of you guys that are listening. Please support wherever you can. Look out for next week's episode and see you then.